Anybody here? Anybody actually watching this stream? Is there anybody actually tuned in? Hello, the Dark Canuck or Canuck. Is it Canuck or is it the Dark Canuck or Canuck? That is the question. Canuck or Canuck? Welcome. Welcome to the stream. Got the equipment, I got this stuff. I guess we're gonna talk about a few topics and then I am going to do the right thing. I'm going to jump into the other things. That is how that rolls. How that goes. Can you uck? I can uck. I can uck for sure. Oh, you're saying how to pronounce it. You do it well. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. If you appreciate my pronunciation of your name, then you should definitely join the page lucyhaza.org/live and donate or subscribe. Oof. Feels like I've had the most unlucky playthrough of this of Stalker 2 ever that anybody could ever have. Okay? Anybody ever in the history of the universe. Like, the game thought, my computer thought the game was malware, so it would not even turn on. I cannot get the artifact still. I am cursed. I cannot get the artifact. Oh, just does not appear. We'll see. Maybe eventually it will happen to me. Same issues? What do you mean? Also couldn't get the artifact? What, did he say he couldn't get the artifact as well? That the artifact didn't spawn? He could not get through the first part of the game? Mm-hmm. Wait, really? That can't be. You're lying to me. Did you really say that the artifact did not spawn for him in the puddles? That he could not get through it? No, no. You're kidding me. That's impossible. Is it? Oh no, true, but I'm not a gamer. Oh. We'll see. Maybe it's the flag that sort of cursed the same sort of bugs upon me. I'm still in the prologue parts of the game and I cannot get out of it. That's not a bug, that's a feature. Apparently. That's apparently a story feature, not a bug, because they don't work outside of the zone. The zone. The zone. The zone. The zone. Yeah. Apparently that's a thing in Stalker 2's story. That's not a bug. You cannot just restart your game and your artifacts will magically start working outside the zone. That won't happen, fortunately, for those who are really into it. But why are there so little people? Okay, I should have at least 100 viewers, just like the mentioned streamer that you just mentioned. Okay, what did I do to deserve low viewership? I'm the biggest Polish trans streamer who's also happens to be Jewish. I have all the street cred to be super popular. I have all the street cred, okay? I've got the books, I've got the smarts, or so some people claim, and I've got the flag. And yet, hmm, hmm, hmm. By the way, I got the camera today. You're in luck, Dark Canuck. I left because he's crying over a stalker game. Oh, I. I mean, that is what nerds do. That is what classic nerds do. Mm-hmm. They cry over video games. I used to cry over so many video games. Complain. But then again, complaining is in my blood. Because at the end of the day, I am Polish. So you know what? I applaud the complaining. I actually applaud the complaining. It's good. It's good to complain. That means that you're spiritually Polish. Polish people complain about everything. When it's summer, a Polish person will complain that it's not the winter. When it's the winter, a Polish person will complain that it's not the summer. It's always like that. A Polish person will always find a way to complain about everything or anything at all times. Congrats on the camera. Thank you. I would not have been able to do it without you and you and you. Wait, there are 8 of you here, so you and 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 especially you. You're my favorite. Hi Lucy, dobre. Oh my god, you're doing the trend. Okay. We're gonna take a look at the camera actually. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna pretend to do an unboxing even though I've already unboxed it before. But I'm gonna pretend that I'm doing a brand new unboxing just for you, okay? All the manuals are already out. ZVE10. I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna go to Ukraine soon, to Kiev, and hopefully beyond. Have I mentioned? Yeah, I've mentioned. I've already talked to you about the person that's goes to, as it happens, a friend of my parents. By chance, I learned that he goes to Ukraine and does a lot of interviews with people there. And he's been working in press related stuff for like 30 years. And I asked him, hey, could you maybe get me into some press things so that I could go do my interviews on their behalf? And he was like, sure, send me your article that you wrote. I sent it. It was like, you're Polish. Leaves a lot to be desired. Listen, come over to my house. I'm gonna help you out. I'm gonna help you rewrite this. Or rather correct all the Polish mistakes. Because the text itself is good, but the Polish. I was like, okay. So I went. We sat down for like 3 or 4 hours. And he corrected my Polish. And he's gonna send it to a friend. He's gonna send it to a friend, and that friend's... We'll see. Okay. Because I was like, the kidnapped children is a very underreported topic, and it's worth writing about and talking about. And he was like, yeah, I know. We think like that, but will the press think like that? I was like, oh. So yeah. Yes. Maybe I'd get more viewers if I complained about Stalker. No, don't. Okay, never mind. I will shut up now. I'll shut up about Stalker. Okay, so I've bought 2 memory cards, 256 gigabyte each. Apparently, these are good. These are good memory cards. I will not be unboxing those. Okay? Okay. Memory cards. Is the artifact necessary to the central story? Apparently, the change that they did to the artifact... Oh, yes, it is. Yes, you have to finish this quest. Yes. I thought you were asking about the whole artifact not working outside the zone thing. And I was gonna launch into a whole explanation, but no. If you're asking simply if I have to finish that quest, then yes. The Dark Canuck would have left me as well if I launched into that whole explanation that he heard on that other stream, so I'm not gonna do it. Oh boy. It's true though. It is true. That whole rant was true. As much as you run away from it, it remains true. Also, I like how excited you are for the camera stuff. True, I am excited. Because that means that the next time I go and do an interview, it won't be like, phone. Okay. No, it'll be camera. Yes, it'll be like that. Not like that. More professional? Yes. As I've just demonstrated, clearly it will be more professional. Because I'm a real professional. I'm not one of those goofy people. Professionalism oozes out of my every pore. Alright. I'm gonna crank open this cherry Coke. I'm a Coke head. I've already taken my hormones for the day or for the night. And now I'm ready to take this box. Whew. I used to be so strong, you know? I used to be so strong before I started taking those hormones. I have an anecdote. That I have to tell you. I I think. Should I tell you the anecdote? Do you want to hear my anecdote about how strong I used to be? I used to have some weird, bizarre endurance feats. I should I think I should have a map for this. I should show you a map. A map that will demonstrate just how strong I used to be. I hope I did not lose the Dark Canuck. Let me see. Was the map heavy? No. The map is to show you distance, actually. The map is to show you the distance. I guess from somewhere around here to... Yeah, that's not an exaggeration, actually. What's the... How do I see the distance, actually? Whatever. I'll just show it to you visually, okay? Alright, I'm gonna show it to you visually. Ready? You're not ready, but it's okay. Okay, react. So this is Warsaw. This is the city of Warsaw, okay? Which weirdly reminds me Kiev with the river. Oh, whatever. So this is Warsaw. This is a place called Bemowo, Wola Park. And this is like... Where is it? The old town is somewhere around here. Let's see. Wola Park is here. We have Ogród Saski is here. I'm trying to give you some sort of frame of reference. How far I've gone. It's gonna be worth it, I think. You're gonna be impressed. You're gonna be impressed with me, okay? I'm gonna be so impressed with my feats that you're gonna be like, oh my god, Lucy was so cool. But where's the... Okay, let's say here. Okay, let's say here. So, here to here. Is it far? Does it look like it's a big distance from here to here? Big distance? You tell me. Yes. I ran it. Because one time, my good friend, Huen, who runs a channel, we decided to go to a restaurant somewhere around here, from here. She was on a bike. and I ran beside the bike, and she would only stop when it was the red light or something. And yes, no, I was chasing a bike to run alongside it because I didn't have a bike. She had a bike. She used the bike. I didn't have the bike. So I ran the whole distance. So, see, I used to have endurance feats. Yeah, as if she would be able to. She's 152 centimeters. That would not, no. No, no. That would not have worked. I guarantee you that would not have worked. Yeah? Like what? That would not have worked. I guarantee you that would not have worked. So I ran. Too late now. It was years ago, okay? Too late to worry about that now. Too late. It's far too late. Now, I probably would not be able to do that. I'd die. Because I'm estrogen pumped. I see 3 of you haven't liked the stream. Please indulge me. Thank you, Dark Canuck. I feel like I cannot talk video games today because I lose Dark Canuck. Alright. So, let's do it. Let's do this. Okay, look, this is the box. Made for vlogging. Oh yeah, if I had a thing like a tripod or whatever, anything, I could potentially use, well, not potentially, I just could. I could use this. I could use this for streaming. I will use this. I probably will use this as a camera for streaming when I'm in Ukraine. This is gonna be my new streaming camera. Okay, let's unpack this. First, you sort of take this. Okay, I'm gonna move my phone somewhere where this, where it's not gonna be in the way. So first, you shed this thing. Whoa. First, you shed this thing. We're gonna examine the thing. It's cubic. It's cubic. Oh my god. I started wanting to rant about Final Fantasy VII Remake, but the Dark Canuck is watching me. So I better not. My daughter will be home soon, but I always enjoy your company, love. Really? Thank you. Wow, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for enjoying my company. Oh, wow. I cannot believe anybody would say that. That they enjoy my company. This shocks me to my core. Okay, at least one person on occasion. There is at least one person that on occasion enjoys my company. Didn't mean to make you feel bad. I was just teasing. Oh, thank you. I mean... Anyway, uh, oh yeah, I forgot what I was doing. I was unboxing the thing. You enjoy my content? Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, this is new content, brand new content. Also, the guy that helped me with the article, I was 100% sure that I visited his World War II era house for the very first time in my life. But once I entered inside, his wife sort of told me, "Oh no, no, no! You've been here. I remember you when you were just this little. When you were just little, you were this little, and there was an even smaller younger sibling running around." And I'm like, "I'm the younger sibling." And she was like, "Oh, well, then no wonder you don't remember." Whew. Okay. Ready? Are you ready? I've opened the box. It's an unboxing. It's an official unboxing. Okay. There are a few components to this, okay? First, the little attachable microphone. That's probably not that good, but maybe I'll use it in a pinch. Maybe I'll use it in a pinch. I'll test it. It's called a dead rat because it has this little fur thing. You attach it on top of the microphone. Maybe we will attach it to test it right now. I smell it. It smells. Oh my god. Oh my god, that scared me. I apologize. I have an app. I have an application that tells me about the sirens. And it just goes off. I'm like, oof. Suddenly a voice behind me starts speaking. I'm like, oh my god. Alright. So that's the mic. Okay? Alright? That's the mic. The thing that you attach. We will do it. Wow, the chat has gone so silent. Why is the chat so silent? There's a strap kind of thing. A strap-on. Some would call it a strap-on. Rare pedals? No, that's a strap-on. We're waiting with bated breath, watching as you unbox the camera. So yeah, this is the strap. This is the battery, which was a second thing. Yes, a battery. Batteries. Battery number 1. And the thing that you use for electricity. Sonnet. Okay, I'm putting the battery and the stuff back into the little... Oof. Yeah, okay. I've done it. Cable, electricity cable with the US socket, or as we call it, the Maryland socket. Who else is here? Everybody's here. What do you mean? Polish/Ukrainian socket. And a USB-C cable. USB-C cable. We're gonna put away the cables for now. And now we're gonna take out the camera itself. Ugh. It's in a little bag. This is it. I smell it. It smells like a new camera. Ta-da! This is it. I'm gonna use this to do the interviews. Now I only need a gimbal, a tripod, a gimbal tripod, microphone, bag to put this in, extra batteries, and I'm good. I'm not gonna buy all that before going. I'm gonna make it work with what I've got. Okay, I'm just gonna make it work with what I've got. Where's the thing that it's supposed to be attached at the top, but I have no clue where I'm supposed to attach this microphone thing. Somewhere at the top. This is the lens. So I'm gonna be using this as my I'm gonna be using this to stream this camera. What is this? I repeat, this would not have worked. Okay? I know her. This would not have worked. Please trust me. Please trust me when I tell you this would not have worked. Not in a million years. Oh yeah. Oh sweet. No. Sweet. Not another support stream. Yes, I'm too fat. But you say I was just trying to find. Wait, what do you mean? Another YX support stream? What do you mean? You can. So that has like this little monitor. Has this monitor, and you can. When I stream. Oh, another tech support stream. What do you mean tech support? Look. So this means this is like the screen. When I stream using this camera, I'll be able to see myself on the screen and monitor myself if I look good or bad. Cool? Cool? My girl, someone from college. Night, Lucy. I need to ask her everything. Okay. Oh my god. My parents never asked me any. Whatever. I don't want to get into it. Ramadan stream. Listen, I keep things fresh. I'm not a predictable streamer. I keep things fresh and like, you know? It's always something new and fresh with me. So what do you think? What do you think? I'm gonna test it sooner or later. Oh, wait. Hold on. We might as well, right? We're in the mood. Are you all in the mood? Are you all the mood? Are you all in the mood for learning how to use this? Oh my god, I'm so smart. Wow. I've got a galaxy brain. You're not gonna believe what I just thought of. Oh my gosh. Sometimes I amaze myself with how smart I am. I'm gonna do a react. Oh my gosh. We're gonna do react. Hold on. What is this?
Here.
Oh. Oh my god, I'm so smart. Alright, let's go. How to use brilliant. Sony ZV-E10 tutorial complete beginner guide. Yes, this is what you came here for. To me watch
the Sony ZV-E10
how to
does not look great.
Use my new camera. Is this not what you're here for? What's wrong with strap-ons? I like strap-ons. Oh my gosh, I just thought of something. Speaking of strap-ons, I just had a thought. Okay, never mind. It's okay. It's all good. All right, let's open video.
But it actually has a lot of potential if you set it up with the right settings. And it's important to make sure you have the right settings dialed in for your shooting scenario. So in this video, I'm gonna show you how to get the most out of your Sony ZV-E10 with a quick...
Oh my god. I would not have gotten the most of it. I would have gotten nothing out of it, probably.
setup guide and how to dial in your perfect settings for both photos and cinematic video. If you want the best price on the ZV-10, make sure to check out the links in the description down below. And all right guys, let's get
thanks. I already bought it, but thanks.
Right into it. Right up here at the top, you'll see an on and off button, and then below that is a button to go between photo, video, and slow motion mode. The button with the red circle is your video.
Is it record? Is it record? It is. It is record. It is.
Video record mode, and then right up here at the top, you'll see another button. This is your shutter button for your photos. Next to it, you'll see a zoom rocker for digital zoom and clear image zoom. And next to that is a defocus button. That
basically what it does is it opens up the aperture all the way open.
Wait, what?
It does
clear image zoom. And next to that is a defocus button. That
basically what it does is it opens up the aperture all the way open, so you get this nice blurry background. And it'll adjust all the other settings so that you can get a properly exposed image.
Next up, let's talk about the quick function menu. So
Quake? Oh, quick. I already said Quake.
On the back of your camera,
properly exposed image.
Next up, let's talk about the quick function menu.
He said Quake, okay? I refuse to believe that he did not say Quake. Maybe you should have done all this before you spent $1,000 or so. I have not spent $1,000. I have not spent $1,000. Oh yeah, you're right. Oh my god, what an unprofessional video. Disc. Amateur hour video.
So on the back of your camera,
should I trust this guy? I don't know anymore.
you'll see a button with FN. Once you click into that, you'll have a quick menu.
OZ 999.99. Actually, I'm gonna tell you exactly how much I've spent. More or less. I've spent... No, that's... $701. So I've not spent 1,000. Like 701. That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Menu pop up at the bottom of your camera. This is going to allow you to change all of your major settings on your camera. And you can also customize this quick menu to have the exact settings that you want. For this, you want to go into Menu, go to the second tab on the second last page, go to Function Menu Set, click into that, and with this page, you can easily take out whatever settings you don't want or add settings that you want.
No way. They say keep your camera safe. Don't go forgetting it on any buses. Are you alluding to something? Is this an allusion to something that I've forgotten something on the bus? Like the time that I forgot my documents on the bus? My passport? My everything? My documentation? That time when I left it on the bus? Are you alluding to that?
Next up, let me show you the different shooting modes on the camera so you can set this camera up for your exact shooting scenario. For this,
that actually happened. And then I tracked down the exact company that I happened to remember that I rode with. I called them and then they tracked down the exact driver and that was a whole thing. God.
You want to go back into your function menu, go into the bottom right icon, click into that, and you'll see a bunch of different shooting modes, but there's only two that you really need to care about.
Yeah.
One is automatic. This is where the camera does all the work for you and makes all the major decisions for you, but
I like that. I like it when others make major decisions for me. I'm not good at making decisions. I should not be allowed to make major decisions. So that's a good option for me.
I recommend shooting in manual mode because in this mode, you can choose your shutter, aperture, and ISO to make sure you get the perfect image. Also, by shooting in manual mode, you also have greater control over specific settings in the camera that help you get the best colors from it. And speaking
colors. The color science.
Speaking of shutter, aperture, and ISO, let me quickly show you how to change those settings on this camera. For shutter, you simply want to rotate this scroll wheel on the back and that's going to change your shutter speed right here at the bottom. For aperture, you want to turn this knob right here, this black unmarked knob. This will change your aperture in the back and your aperture will depend on what kind of lens you have on this camera. And for ISO, you want to click right and here you can change your ISO easily. So that's how you change the three major settings on this camera.
Wow.
Also, if you really want to customize your camera, you can also go into the menus and choose different custom buttons. This is how you do it. You want to go back into your menu and on the exact same page we were on before, there's also custom keys, one's for photos, one for video, and right in here you can actually customize every...
Cool. This is nerdy. Yeah, I'm a nerd. What do you want?
Every single button on the back of this camera, so it does...
If you enjoy my nerdiness, you should donate.
Exactly what you want. And there's two settings that I have to show you guys because most people usually mess these up, including myself. For this,
I never mess these up because I've never done them. Got 'em.
Go back into your function menu and you want to click over to AWB. This is your white balance and you want to make sure it's set to the exact shooting scenario you're in. It will give you options like daylight, shade, cloudy, incandescent, different lighting scenarios. And this way, the camera uses the right color matrix to make sure that it's accurate to the lighting you're in. Otherwise, you might get a yellow or blue cast on all your images. And if you're not sure if you're using the right shutter speed, ISO, or aperture, the easiest thing to do is at the bottom of your camera screen, you'll see MM. This is your light meter, and next to it you'll usually see a number that's like -2 +1. This basically tells you how too bright or too dark you are. If there's a negative number, it's too dark. If there's a positive number, it's too bright. For the ZV-10, you either want to make sure it's right at 0 or it's at +1. Anything above that, your image will be too bright. Everything below 0, your image will be too dark.
See? Brilliant.
This is going to help you make sure you always have properly exposed images. Now, if you want to get great photos and videos, you want to make sure your
So you're gonna take some practice videos? Yes.
autofocus is set up properly. Otherwise, it's going to be a struggle to use this camera. Now, this is done with two different settings in your function menu. Once you hit your function menu, you want to go over to focus mode or focus area. Now, once you go into focus area, there's three different options: wide, zone, and flexible spot. For most people, I recommend using wide because it lets the autofocus look at your entire image area and figure out what needs to be in focus. Or there is zone. This basically chooses a specific zone in your image area. You can choose, once you click into it, you can choose the middle, left, right, top. And this is for specific shooting scenarios where you know your subject's either going to be in the top left, top right, and this way the autofocus is just focusing on that area. And lastly, you have flexible spot. This is to make sure that whatever you're focusing on is inside of this little square. You can move it anywhere in the image area, but this way it's just focusing on that small box. For most people, I do recommend using wide. Next up is focus mode, and this is really specific to whether you're shooting photos or videos. Once you go into focus mode, you'll see single shot AF, automatic AF, and then continuous AF.
Continuous as fuck. How are you doing today?
If you're in photo mode and you know you're looking at something that's just sitting in one place, single shot AF basically catches focus on something, takes a shot, and it does not move focus until you hit the shutter button again. But for most people, I actually recommend shooting in automatic AF in photo mode. This will make sure that even if your subject is moving, if the camera's moving, it will basically track focus as the camera or subject moves. But if you're in video mode, the only option you really have is continuous AF. This is for moving subjects. Even if they're sitting still, this is really the option to use. And below that, you have DMF and manual focus, which I don't recommend using. If you're gonna spend so much money on a camera like this, I recommend using the automatic modes.
Wow.
All right, let's get into the fun stuff. How do you get the best colors from your
There you go, the color science thing.
ZV-10? Well, there's two different ways to do this, and they're different for both photos and videos. If you want great colors in photo mode, what you want to do is you want to go into function menu, go down to right here, creative style, and this will give you a bunch of options like portrait, vivid. Standard does not look very good, but I recommend portrait because it seems to have the best colors. It brightens up your image a little.
Hello, Fake Alec Cal Parker. You've missed me unpacking the camera. But now we're watching a video how to set it up. Cool? You happy that you're here for this? For learning how to set up best colors for the camera that I'm using?
A little bit so it doesn't feel as dark. For 99% of people, I either recommend using portrait or landscape. Everything else is just okay. Sunset has like a weird yellow cast to it. I don't really recommend it. There's also black and white in sepia, which has like an old-timey look to it. But again, for most people, portraits and landscape is going to give you the best colors, and also it's going to make your photos and videos look the best. But if
Thank you, Ty. Hello, welcome to the stream. Welcome to this experience. Whew.
Shooting photos and you're someone that likes to edit photos, I'm going to show you a setting later in this video that lets you get the most data from your photos so that you have the most room when it comes to editing. Now, for videos, it's a little bit more complicated because some people just want great videos out of the camera, and some people like to have as much room to play around with the colors later on.
Oh, no, 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 no. I already know enough that you actually, to get good colors, you need color equipment, color people, etc. I want the colors to be good from the camera. Thank you.
For you,
I
you
don't have editors or color scientists or whatever to do the colors for me. Thank you.
can either use a creative style or you can turn off creative style, go to standard, go back into the function menu, go into picture profile, and this is going to give you 10 different options. It doesn't really matter which one you pick, just pick your favorite number.
What? Then what's the point of having 10?
Go into that picture profile, and there's two picture profiles that I recommend using. One is Cine 4. This is going to give you very filmic colors, so you want to go into Gamma, pick Cine 4, go down to color mode, and make sure you pick Cinema if you're using Cine 4. Or if you want a maximum flexibility with your colors and you want to make your videos into something cinematic, go into Gamma, go down to S-Log3. You want to make sure you use S-Log3, and then go to color, and you want to go down to sgamut3.cine. This is going to give you the best colors, and this way you're going to get the most room to play around with your colors later on. One
Cool.
setting that I highly recommend turning off is soft skin effect. This is turned on by default, but it simply looks bad on everybody. So for this, you want to go into menu, make sure you're in tab 1, and it's the third last page, as you can see on the screen. Go into soft skin, and you want to make sure this is off. By default, it's set to mid or high, but you want to make sure it's off, and this way you'll get the best looking
What does that even do?
skin. So in order to get the best quality photos and videos, it's more than just what color mode you're shooting in. You also want to make sure you pick the right file type. And this is different for both photos and video. So assuming you're in photo mode,
Oh my god.
you want to go into menu, and on the very first page, you'll see
My head already hurts.
file format. You want to click into this, and you have a few options: RAW, RAW plus JPEG, and JPEG. If you're someone that's just a casual user, you want to get great photos in camera, just simply shoot JPEGs, and those are the photos that you will post or do whatever you want with.
RAW. I'm gonna choose RAW plus JPEG, maybe?
But if you're a power user like me, I recommend shooting neither
Power.
RAW or RAW plus JPEG. RAW plus JPEG is useful because when you're looking at your photos on your computer, you have a JPEG right next to every single RAW photo, so you know exactly what that photo is before you open up in whatever program you use. So let's assume we're going with RAW plus JPEG, and you want to go down to JPEG quality, and you also want to make sure you pick extra fine for JPEGs.
Extra fine. I'm not just fine. I'm extra fine. Also, I'm gonna go to the toilet. I highly encourage you to do two things. Invite all of your friends and relatives to this stream. That is a must. And also, donate. I will be right back. Wait, what do you need to drink? Okay, I'll be right back. Oh wow. Nobody said anything. That is so so sad.
This way, you're going to get the best quality JPEGs. And there's also the aspect ratio that you shoot in. Now, this is really important. If you're someone that already knows they're going to be posting this on Instagram, you can actually pick 4:3, which is square, 3:2, which is the entire sensor, 16:9, which is the widescreen TV ratio that you see here, or 1:1, which is a 1:1 square. This way, you can set your camera up for the exact format you're going to be posting it.
Lucy, I'm eating. I can't type. Them's the rules. Yeah, but there are like, 6 people. Wow. I cannot say that my streams are getting traction today.
And depending on what you're shooting, you also want to make sure you pick the right frame rate. Now, the ZV-10 does shoot at 10 frames per second, but you don't have to use the maximum 10 frames per second. Otherwise, you're just getting a bunch of photos that you don't really need. So to change the setting from your main screen, hit the left button on your scroll wheel, and you'll have a bunch of settings come up. The main one to look out for is single shooting, where it just
I
takes...
was so worried he was talking about video. Oh my god, 10 frames per second. He was like, you don't have to use 10 frames per second, the maximum. I was like, what? Wait, what? Yeah, I know. 4K is 30 frames per second.
one photo and then stops. Then there's continuous shooting, where it keeps taking photos as long as the shutter button is pressed down. And for this, you can pick different modes, where at high, you'll get 10 frames per second. At mid, you'll get about 5 or 6. And at low, you're getting about 2 or 3 frames per second. So depending on how many photos you want, how fast your subject is moving, you can pick different frame rates. If you're a casual user that really doesn't know how to use this camera yet, I recommend simply shooting in high mode. This way you get every photo you need, and as you get better with this camera, you can pick what frame rate to shoot at. Next up, let's talk about how to set up your video properly. For this, you want to go into menu, and you want to scroll over to the second tab, and down here you'll see a bunch of options. One thing to make sure is you want to make sure your shoot mode is set to manual exposure, and then you want to go into file format.
Okay.
Now for this, you have 2 options. One is XAVC-S 4K,
yes.
and one is XAVC-S HD. 4K gives you 4K, and HD simply gives you full HD resolution. Depending on what you're shooting and what you want, you'll get different frame rates and different options in each. Let's first take a look at 4K. So once you go into 4K mode, right below that, you'll see record settings, and here you'll see different frame rates. You can shoot at 30 frames per second or 24 frames per second. So depending on how good you want the quality to be, you can pick 30p at 100 megabits per second or 60 megabits per second. For most people, I simply recommend shooting at the highest 100 megabits per second because you're really not going to save that much space, and you want to make sure you get the most out of this camera. So for this reason, I recommend shooting in either 30p 100 megabits per second or 24p 100 megabits per second. And for this example, we'll go with 24p.
Why 24?
Next up, let's take a look at HD. So inside of HD, you'll see a bunch of different options as well. Now you have a lot more frame rates. You have 30p, you have 24p, but you also have 120 frames per second for 5 times slow motion and 60 frames per second for 2 times slow motion. This is where it records that frame rate in camera. Now this has 2 options. One, you can simply record at 60 frames per second to get really smooth motion blur or really smooth movement in camera. This is really good to have smooth motion for like sports or any kind of thing where you want your audience to be really immersed in the content. You can also use it for slow motion by slowing it down later. However, this camera does have a slow motion mode that I will show you in just a second. But go ahead and pick whatever frame rate you want depending on what you're shooting. If you're shooting something cinematic, I recommend sticking with 24p because that's the frame rate movies are shot in. Next up, let's talk about slow motion because that's really important on this camera. For this, we want to go back to the top of our camera, hit this button, go into slow motion mode, and once we go back into menus, you want to go down to slow S&Q setting. And for this, you have 2 options, record setting and frame rate. So for this, you want to set your record setting to as low as possible. We'll go with 24p. And then your frame rate to either 120 frames per second or 120p. And what this does is it slows down the footage in camera. This way you don't have to take it into an editing software and slow it down later on. This is really good for someone that doesn't want to edit their footage and just wants slow motion in camera to show people. So for this, you want to pick the highest frame rate, which is 120 or 60 frames per second, pick that, and now whatever you shoot will already be slowed down in camera. But there's one really interesting trick with this camera, is that if you go to a lower frame rate than your recording frame rate, like let's say 8 frames per second or 4 frames per second, which you'll actually notice at the bottom, it now says 6 times quick motion. What this allows you to do is it simply allows you to almost shoot a time lapse or a hyperlapse in video where it shoots at a slower frame rate than your record frame rate. So when you play back the video, everything will look sped up. This is really good if you want to take the camera, move through a space for a hyperlapse or a time lapse. This is a really convenient way to do it. And there's also a way to shoot time lapses or interval shooting in photo mode. So set your camera to photo mode, go back into menu, and here you'll see interval shooting mode on the first tab on the 3rd page. Once you click into that, you'll see a couple of options, but you want to make sure interval shooting mode is on. Then shooting start time, 1 second. Shooting interval, where basically it picks how much of a pause it takes between taking photos. So we'll set it to like, let's say 5-6 seconds. And then you want to set number of shots, and you want to actually pick the highest number of shots you can possibly get. So we'll just pick 999 on everything. And this way, what it'll basically do is it'll take a photo every 6 seconds up to 999 photos. And this way you can get a really beautiful time lapse just using photos. The advantage for using photos for time lapses is that this camera does shoot higher quality photos than videos. So this way you can get a much higher quality time lapse by using raw photos. Now, audio is a huge part of using this camera. So to make sure you get the perfect audio, go back into your quick function menu, go all the way to the left, click into that, and you'll see a record level. So for this, you basically want to talk, and you'll see levels at the bottom. And you want to try to be as loud as possible, like check, check, check. And you want to make sure whatever you have your record level set to, that it's not too high, so that this recording meter doesn't go into the red. And another setting that's really important is you want to go back into menu, go to the 2nd tab on the 3rd page, and you'll see wind noise reduction. You want to make sure you have this on at all times. It's not going to affect you if there's no wind noise, but just in case you're in a place where there's a lot of background noise or wind noise, it will cancel that out automatically. Now, using this camera isn't just about getting the right settings in it. Well, it's a big part of it, but another thing that's really important is to make sure you have the right accessories for this camera. So in order to get the fastest recording frame rates or the fastest photo frame rates, you want to make sure you have at least a V30 card or a V90 card.
Hey,
actually, a V90.
I have to check what my card is. Is it V whatever? Okay, good. V30. Whew. All right. It's a good one. All right. Whew.
It might be overkill, but you want to make sure you have at least or a V90 card. Actually, a V90 might be overkill, but you want to make sure you have at least a V30 card. This way, your camera won't need as much of a break when shooting photos, and you also want to pick up a cage for this camera if you're maybe a content creator or a professional vlogger. This way, you'll have kind of like an armor on this camera that, one, it protects the camera, but it also lets you mount accessories to this camera and more easily lets you put it on a tripod or a gimbal. The 2 cages that I really like, I'll leave links in the description down below. I really like the cages from Small Rig and Tilta. And another really important thing are your batteries. Because this camera has such a small battery, I recommend having plenty of spares. Now, if you go on Amazon...
Oh, good luck. I don't have... Please donate.
There's third-party battery manufacturers that will give you batteries for like dirt cheap. They're like 20 bucks a battery.
I don't even have dirt cheap. I can't afford dirt cheap.
I actually do recommend using them. They may not last as long as the official Sony batteries, but considering how expensive the Sony batteries are, the third-party batteries are an amazing deal, and you can get like 4 for like 50 bucks. Or you can also use a USB power supply dummy battery, just like I am on this M50. This basically puts a battery at the bottom of your camera, and it lets you run a power cord to your power outlet, so that way you have a just power to your camera at all times. This is really useful if you're someone like me that records videos for YouTube or any other platform where you're sitting down a lot and you don't want to have to worry about running out of battery. If you're a content creator that's making content with your ZV-10, I also recommend having a small light. You can find a cheap RGB light on Amazon. This is a random light that I found for 40 bucks.
What?
But the one that I recommend most people get is the Aperture MC light. It's really small, but very, very powerful. It's about $120, but it's probably the best pocket light you can get. With all of these settings dialed in, you will without a doubt get amazing photos and videos for whatever you're shooting. And if you want the best price on the ZV-10 or the
Oh my God, of course.
accessories I talked about today, make sure to check out the links in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next video.
I will not see you ever again. I will not see you ever again. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This was a one-off. This was a one-off deal. I ain't gonna see you ever again. It's done. So how do we feel about that? About what just happened? What is your score? Oh my God, we're gonna be talking about Romania today, aren't we? I promised you. I promised that we would be talking about Romania. Oh my God. Ugh. I promised. I promised, so I have to keep my word, I suppose. Is the internet on? It's on. What's wrong? Things working all of a sudden. I have to find my text help. Because I forgot all the Romanian names. Apologies. I'm a racist that way. Oh my gosh. Hola. Hola. ¿Cómo estás? Es muy bien. As always. As always. Es muy bien. Oh, wow, nice. Eastern Europe news. I'm gonna be reading about Romania. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'm gonna be talking now about the elections in Romania. Because things are happening. Things are happening. And since they are happening, we're going to have to talk about it. I know some Spanish. I know some of many languages, actually. Interestingly enough. I know some of many languages. I'm a pseudo polyglot. I'm a languager. A voyager of languages. Alright, I'm doing my hair. So, I'm gonna take a sip of cola. I'm gonna tell you all about Romania because it's about the situation in broader Eastern Europe. Let me just say that. And it's worrying me deeply. It deeply worries me. Everything deeply worries me, but this is our main topic today. It's actually not, but it is a pretty important topic for today. Oh my gosh. Okay, this is another topic. Oh my gosh. So you know how in many Eastern European countries far right groups are gaining ground. Far right reactionary groups are getting populist groups are gaining ground. The Fidesz party in Hungary has been ruling for quite a long time now. The Law and Justice Party, which thank goodness is not in power anymore, but is still looking to come back into power, banking on the population being disappointed with the current coalition not keeping its promises. We have the situation in Slovakia, the government which is openly anti-Ukraine and mocked citizens for doing a fundraiser on their own in the face of their own government not wanting to aid Ukraine in any way. There's a bunch of stuff happening. And while we're at it, there's also the whole situation in Moldova, Georgia, a lot of things that are affecting the entire region. And so there's a pretty right-wing populist party that has also emerged in Romania. There's a far-right presidential candidate that has emerged in Romania. And this is where it gets interesting, and by interesting I mean horrible. Because the current center-left Prime Minister Marcel Ciolacu has is in the third place when it comes to the first round of the presidential election. And this is where I have to explain something. There's been a big controversy. There has been a big controversy around these elections because one of the candidates has been barred from taking part. There was a candidate, we're not gonna go deep into that person's identity, but there's been a person that wanted to run for president, but they were excluded from participation because their views were anti-constitutional and they were pro-Russian. And even the detractors of this candidate were against this move of excluding them from the election outright. But apparently, and this is where it gets comical, the current prime minister is behind this move, and his logic was as follows. If I let this person run, the far right vote might become divided between this person that we excluded and the far right party leader Georgescu. If we separate the far right vote, then we might end up in a situation where the far right vote is separated between two candidates, and that means that there's a candidate that the current prime minister was afraid of winning, and he was afraid that Elena Lasconi of the center right would win more votes than the far right candidate, the far right candidate, because he was sure that he would be number one, but he wanted to choose who his competition would be. He did not want it to be Elena Lasconi, so he decided to consolidate the far right vote in the hands of Georgescu. So he would be his competition and not Elena Lasconi. That was the thought process. Everything clear so far? You understand what's happening? The current prime minister thought, if I don't let the far right vote to divide, then I will be running against this guy and not that person Elena. I don't want to run against her. So I want this guy to beat her. And to do that, I will not let the far right vote to be divided between two candidates. Yeah? We all understand? So far so good? But what ended up happening is, and we will read it from the article that I've got here, what actually ended up happening is this. Far-right Ukraine aid critic takes surprise lead in Romanian presidential election. Because yes, this whole stupid plan, of course, backfired. It backfired spectacularly. What actually ended up happening is this. Georgescu, the far right politician, is leading the polls with 22.94%, the person that the current prime minister wanted to run against. But what he did not expect, and roughly 99.95% of the vote counted, what he did not expect, that he would not actually be the top dog, followed by two pro-Western candidates, Elena Lasconi of the center-right Save Romania Union, USR, at 19.17, and center-left Prime Minister Marcel Ciolacu at 19.15%. He ended up being third place. He ended up third place. He ended up losing to the guy that he wanted to go against, and he ended up still losing to the person that he did not want to go against. He ended up third place, below both of them. So I think it's fair to say his plan has backfired spectacularly, because if he actually left that other candidate, allowed them to go to compete in the presidential election, and if the far right vote was actually divided, then there is a chance that he'd actually be squaring off against Elena Lasconi. But it is what it is. Great plans sometimes do not work as well as we'd like. And this is an amazing example of that. This is the person that's been banned. George Simeon, the leader of the far-right Our Alliance, who has been banned from entering Ukraine over systematic anti-Ukraine activities, is projected to come in fourth with 13.87%. The second round of the vote is scheduled to take place on December 8th. The surprise outcome signals a possible shift within a country at NATO's eastern frontier that has been staunchly supportive of its Ukrainian neighbors. Throughout the full-scale war, Romania's head of state has a significant influence in some areas such as foreign policy. Georgescu has previously called for an end to Romania's support for Ukraine and lambasted the presence of a NATO missile defense station in Romania as a shame on diplomacy. So yeah, we possibly might get an anti-Ukraine guy in Romania, which is a very, very bad thing right now. The last thing Ukraine needs when it's basically at the critical stage of the war, when the situation at the front is quite frankly, well, really difficult, let's just say, the last thing that it needs is a government that is anti-aid to Ukraine, that does not support Ukraine. Because between round number 1 and round number 2, Romania is also having its general elections. And there's a chance that a far-right party might get a lot of votes, unfortunately. Because the presidential election serves as a boost to parties. If a far-right candidate is being popular in the presidential race, there's a pretty big chance that also a far-right party might gain traction in the general elections, as unfortunate as it is. Romania took a decisively pro-Ukraine stance under Ciolacu, an outgoing President Klaus Iohannis, providing military, humanitarian, and economic support. The country is a key conduit for Ukraine's agricultural exports and has recently provided Ukraine with a Patriot air defense system, so a really strong ally thus far. Romania shares a 610-kilometer border with Ukraine. Russian drone wreckage has been found on the Romanian side of the border on several occasions following Moscow's drone strikes against Ukraine, forcing Bucharest to ramp up security measures in the area. Georgescu, who has a strong presence on the TikTok social network, was considered a marginal candidate by previous surveys and was not often listed among the top presidential hopefuls. He ran as an independent candidate while a former member of the AUR. Georgescu left the party in 2022 after being criticized by his fellow party members who said his overly pro-Russian and anti-NATO views damaged the party's image. Georgescu also lauded Romania's World War II era fascist leader Ion Antonescu as a national hero. Wow. He served as a special rapporteur in the office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights and worker as an expert in sustainable development and environment sector. So there you have it. The reason why I'm talking about this, the reason why I think it's important is you could say there's a battle going on right now in the region. There's a battle and there's a choice that countries are making in the region. And the choice is West, European Union versus Ruski Mir, basically. And Russia is doing its best to sway as many countries as it possibly can to the Ruski Mir side. It has meddled in Moldova. It has definitely meddled in Georgia. It probably would not complain if Romania would go the road of anti-aid to Ukraine and maybe pro-Russian policy. Russia would definitely not complain about that. Slovakia is right now pretty anti Ukraine. This has been my big fear. This has, like, Slovakia happened basically at a similar time that Poland did, and the big fear was that the law and justice would win, and also that Slovakia would be anti-Ukraine. But thank God, law and justice went away. And that is why I really wanted to talk about Romania. Because it seems like through overcomplicated plans of a certain current prime minister, we're getting a result that nobody really wants. So there you have it. That is Romania. There is another shameful topic that I'd like to discuss today. Unfortunately, as a Polish person, I'm forced to feel extremely ashamed. Because recently, Ukraine has commemorated the awful genocide that was the Holodomor. Millions of people starved to death by the Stalin regime via collectivization, which created a famine, and putting draconian laws which caused millions of people in Ukraine, Soviet Ukraine, to starve. That was the Holodomor. So, in their infinite wisdom, Polish farmers have decided in their infinite wisdom have decided to block border crossing with Ukraine on that day, on the day of the commemoration of the Holodomor. Why? You could ask me. Why would they do that? And bear in mind, at this point, I know the mind of the Polish farmer. I've been, I think, to 3 of their insane protests. I've interviewed them. I've been to the most violent of those protests where police came in and started gassing them. I've been gassed as well. And beating them, even, I believe, something like that. The Polish farmers are simply crazy. They are pumped full of Russian propaganda. They're pumped full of nonsensical beliefs about global warming. And some of them are even pro-Russian. There was this infamous transparent on, there was this board on one of the tractors of the Polish farmers which said that Putin should come to Poland and clean house or something like that. That was a thing. That was a thing that entered the internet sphere and the world for the world to see. Farmers, Polish farmers saying Putin should come here and clean house. And so, you might be wondering, okay, so what triggered this protest? What exactly triggered the Polish farmers to decide to go to the border, block it for 48 hours? What happened? What did Ukraine do to those poor farmers? Well, the answer is nothing. Because what the protesters, the farmers, the peasants, as they call themselves, what they protested 2 things. 1, they want the agricultural tax set by Poland for the farmers to be at the same level as in the year 2023. That's demand number 1. Okay? Demand number 2. The farmers do not like that the European Union wants to sign a deal with South America. A deal that Poland is actually planning to boycott to begin with. Poland does not even want to sign this deal. Keep this in mind. Poland is now meeting with France in order to create a unified front against that deal. So in conclusion, the Polish farmers have decided to punish Ukraine for tax levels they don't like and a deal with South America that Poland does not want to sign to begin with. So there you have it. There you have it. I'm going to read some of the article here. Now that I've given you the context of what's happening. Farmers blocked Poland's Medica border crossing with Ukraine on Saturday in a protest over the trade deal between the European Union and Mercosur, which they say will reduce their competitiveness, Polish state news agency PAP reported. Mercosur is a trade bloc of South American countries, and the farmers fear the deal will make their produce less competitive in the EU. And that is why Ukraine needs to be punished. Of course, Ukraine has to be stopped. They are also disgruntled by the Polish government increasing the rate of the agricultural tax. The farmers began their 24/7 protest on Saturday morning with about 30 people walking along the pedestrian crossing carrying Polish flags. Trucks from Ukraine are blocked from entering and only one truck per hour is allowed to leave Poland. So, if anyone had any doubts that this whole thing is nonsense, if anyone in the past was like, well, maybe we could see the farmer's point, maybe we could sort of see where they're coming from, but there's, how do you excuse this? It's impossible. What does Ukraine have to do with any of this? The answer is nothing. The peasants, quote unquote, have decided to punish Ukraine for South America and taxes. The farmers' blockade does not apply to passenger vehicles, buses, humanitarian, and military transport, which can all pass freely. How generous. Oh, how generous. The protest is planned to continue until the end of the year. Yeah. It's ridiculous. The farmers' protest in Medica has the same goal for which I have been fighting on various fronts for a long time, Czesław Siekierski wrote on X, the Minister of Agriculture. Let me remind you that we said no to the agreement with the Mercosur, countries in the Ministry of Agriculture. Poland said no! And they still decided to protest. So, I guess. Oh yeah, also the organization that sort of backs the protest, of course, has some pro-Russian leanings because, of course, as that is always how it ends up. That there's usually some Confederacy goon behind these protests. Like, that's a given. There were Confederacy goons behind the protests that I've attended before. There are definitely Confederacy goons behind this one. Because any reason is reason good enough for Confederacja to spout anti-Ukrainian bullshit. And at a time like this, it's not even funny. It's not even comical. It just pisses me off. All right. We've done it. We've done it indeed. Oh my god. What is next? Quite a lot of things, actually. Quite a lot of things. We could be talking about Russia's missile, new experimental missile. We could play a game. No, today we'll do politics. Have to do serious work during the week. Oh yeah, yes, now I remember. I do have things. I want to talk about the countries in the region of because there are a few streamers at least that are gonna give you the breakdown of the battlefield in Ukraine itself. But listen, I'm here to supplement the picture of all the others by telling you what is happening with the countries all around, like Romania, like Poland, which is entering its presidential election cycle, and Belarus, which also will have its election in January 2025. Oh, those people might be disappointed. Those people might live to be disappointed. So, have you ever heard the term nuclear umbrella? Nuclear umbrella is usually discussed in terms of the United States of America. The United States of America basically extends a protection of sorts. It extends its nuclear arsenal to protect its allies should they be attacked by a nuclear power. They basically say, and that was meant against the USSR back in the day. And you could say that right now this nuclear umbrella is a thing that is targeted against Russia. The logic is, for example, we're going to use Poland as an example. Dear Russia, if you attack Poland with a first nuclear strike, it will be basically the equivalent of attacking the United States with a nuclear strike, and we will respond in kind. But by a retaliatory strike on you. That is the idea of the nuclear umbrella. That's the idea behind the nuclear umbrella. And as we know, very recently, Russia has changed up a bit its nuclear doctrine. It has lowered the threshold by which Russia would resort to nuclear weapons. It has lowered the threshold by which Russia would resort to nuclear weapons. And part of this changed doctrine is actually sharing this nuclear umbrella, this Russian nuclear umbrella with Belarus. which is an interesting turn of events. And probably we will be discussing why that is, why Russia has decided on such a move, and what it means. So, as we know, Belarus has moved its presidential elections to be in January, 6 months ahead of schedule, roughly. Um, the current president, Lukashenko, has basically only allowed himself and a few of his supporters to run as opposition. Nobody from the actual opposition is allowed to run, and basically this just serves as a farce election to uh, prolong his rule as the eternal president of Belarus and a stooge to Russia. So let's see some facts. According to Belarus, 49 Shahid type drones entered Belarus airspace in October, and Belarus claims that these are both Ukrainian and Russian drones, even though Belarus has not presented any evidence of any Ukrainian drones entering its airspace. At one point, Belarus started shooting down drones, Russian drones, entering its airspace. So Belarus is, ironically enough, doing more in that regard than Poland. And the Belarusian opposition leader, which is also a pretty important fact, that we all remember the 2020 elections. We all remember how there was this opposition candidate who has been arrested, and how his wife took over after him after he was arrested to run in the election in his stead. A lot of people were mobilized during that election to go vote for her. All signs on earth and in the heavens signaled to her victory, but alas, the elections were heavily rigged. The presidential candidate, she was forced to flee the country to Lithuania, and the country was engulfed in countrywide protests, which were squashed, of course, subsequently. That opposition candidate's name is Svitlana Tsikhanouskaya, and this is all this sort of Russian nuclear umbrella, strangely enough, is a part of this whole hype, of this whole presidential campaign, of this wider. There are two things happening here. The first thing is demonizing the West, as always, because it sort of builds a narrative of the West preparing to invade Belarus and trying to depose Lukashenko any time now. So there's that. And it is part of a wider thing that Belarus is doing in preparation to crush terrorists, not allow foreign powers to intervene, and not allow demons to take over. We'll go back to that. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to the demons. We will come back to the demons, I promise you. The Belarusian police is training to suppress citizens. It is training to prepare for the use of gas, anti-riot bullets. It is basically preparing, as it says, as the Belarusian government says, to fight extremism and terrorism on the election day. That is the training. And of course, Belarus has been cracking down on the families of opposition members, which is, of course, as well a form of keeping Belarus safe. Lukashenko himself is very glad about this nuclear umbrella thing. He said that it was long overdue. And Lukashenko said on September 27th, and that is pretty, actually, that is very significant. He said on September 27th that NATO countries were deploying troops at the border with Belarus. Belarus is eternally under siege. And now we are arriving at my final point, which is the infamous documentary that Belarus has produced on top of all that. It is called Demons: How They Want to Take Over Belarus. It basically says that Poland is training a bunch of warriors, Belarusian opposition soldiers, for them to invade Belarus, and of course Poland and a few other countries would send their own militaries to clean house and take over Belarus. As the documentary states, the first wave of attack would consist of Belarusian opposition pumped on drugs and alcohol, ready to kill everyone. Their only goal would be to kill everyone on their path, because they would be pumped full of alcohol and drugs. We already know that we are in for one heck of a documentary. And of course, that's the vanguard, the high and drunk, newly formed Belarusian opposition army, drunkard, drug addicts will pave the way to professional armies of Poland, Lithuania. I'm not sure if Romania was lumped into this, but yes, that is what's happening. So what we're seeing here is posturing, and more posturing. The nuclear umbrella thing is part of it. Belarus is actually not perpetually under siege. Poland is not just days away from invading Belarus. Oh yeah, and the doctrine, the new nuclear doctrine says that any sort of attack by drones or any other things is grounds for Russia to use nuclear weapons. I don't know why I'm so tired. This seems to be old news, as in the opposition being foreign agent as 101 for these failed state dictators. The drugs thing is stapled. Wow. It's more than just, oh, the opposition is taking drugs. The opposition are a bunch of drugs. No. They are demons who are preparing to invade any day now, and they're gonna create a whole military or paramilitary unit. They're gonna prepare a whole paramilitary unit of drug addicts and drunkards that are gonna roam the country and kill everybody in their sight. And Belarus has to seriously prepare for that. And because of that danger of invasion, Belarus absolutely needs the Russian nuclear umbrella. Thank you. It all ties together in a real, weird, stupid, quite frankly, way. In fact, actually, from what I've heard, Ukraine is actually worried that Belarus might once again be used as a springboard for another attack from Russia, which is why Ukraine is apparently actually investing into building fortifications. from the Belarusian side as well. That is what I've heard. In the meantime, things are not going well at the front. Things are going. Russians are pushing forward basically in the entirety of the front line. I've heard most worrying tidings from Kursk itself of soldiers, the biggest problem being soldiers being sent to Kursk without adequate training. They go through basic training and are sent to the Kursk front line, which is very bad considering that Kursk is where some of the most experienced Ukrainian soldiers fight. And then now we're getting reinforcements that consist of people that get barely any training and are just sent to fight. And the problem with that is, well, of course, that they're gonna probably die pretty easily because they don't have much experience. A Polish volunteer whose conversation with a Polish streamer I've heard recently said that she saw a soldier with a rifle sort of shaking. His hands were shaking. He was in a position almost as if he was to shoot himself. But he didn't want to shoot himself. He just did not know how to handle a gun properly. And he told her, I just finished basic training. I got sent here. I have no clue what I'm doing. And that is a big problem. That is a big problem indeed. So, yeah. Also, apparently Kursk is seeing a pretty big influx of sort of condensation of drone is extremely high in Kursk. Apparently armored vehicles are having real trouble in getting to the front line. Kursk is not doing well from what I have been hearing. There's also another big problem that I've been reading and hearing about when it comes to the Ukrainian front line. I guess I said that I wouldn't be talking about Ukrainian front line, but I guess I'll be talking about it a little bit since that is something that worries me a lot. And that is units being taken from areas that they know the terrain, they know how to defend themselves in that terrain, they sort of have experience in fighting in that particular area, and then suddenly, without any warning, they're being moved to a totally different area where they don't know the terrain, they don't know anything, and they barely have the time to collect their bearings. Quite literally. The same Polish volunteer said that the soldiers from a unit that was suddenly moved from one area to the other told her, hey, can you pick up our stuff and bring it to us because we did not have the time to take it. That's not good. That is, I know that the situation is very difficult and certain areas need reinforcing really, really quickly. So I assume that is why units are being frantically moved from one place to the other. But it ends up in a situation where a unit that had experience in fighting in one sort of terrain, in one area, they know it well, they know how to defend it, they know ins and outs, are thrown into a completely new environment and are expected to perform well in it. So that's another thing that I've sort of, I guess, things are not going well. Things are not going well, and it would be a real disaster if on top of that the US would suddenly decide to stop further aid for Ukraine. We'll just have to see what will happen. The situation is really, really difficult and is being described by many as the critical point of this whole war. The critical part of this whole war. And there we have it. Belarus, yeah. Belarus is a pretty tragic country if you think about it. Alright, so that's it. That's basically what I wanted to say about that. Any thoughts? Any comments? Anything? Is there anything that we'd like to... Oh yeah, we might as well... Yeah, there was a thing. Apparently Joe Rogan has decided to talk about Ukraine recently. Breaking: Joe Rogan is getting massive backlash for his comments on Ukraine. I wanna hear those comments. Where can I find this comment raw without any commentary? Maybe on X. Let's look for it on X. Someone in the Pentagon is can't imagine being unwell enough to spend all my time burning with rage about the fact that there are immigrants in my country, and yet there are millions of people in North America and Europe thinking about this all day, every day. I do like this quote. This quote is making my day. True. I agree. I agree with this sentiment wholeheartedly. Holy. Wow. Okay. I'm gonna look it up on X. Joe Rogan, Ukraine. There has to be a clip. There has to be a clip that I can watch. Joe Rogan said Ukraine is trying to start World War III. How predictable. Tell Zelensky and... Jesus Christ, of course. And there's been a response by a famous Ukrainian boxer, I think. So we're gonna be watching that, I guess. Is that the full clip? Okay, we're gonna watch the short clip, I guess. Yes, we're gonna be watching the short clip now. Yeah, why not? That's what we're gonna be doing, I suppose. I suppose that is what we are going to be doing. This guy has a lot of viewers. So him spouting such nonsense, it's effective. Unfortunately, this sort of thing is effective propaganda. Whether you like it or not, you may laugh, you may call it stupid. Unfortunately, this person has a lot of viewers that listen, and they will probably think it's reasonable. I've met people that said that if Joe Rogan just focused on commenting on combat sports and never open his mouth about politics, they'd watch him. They'd watch him religiously. So make of that what you will. All right, let's watch.
I mean, look, I don't know shit about politics. I'm not
Zelensky
gonna
says
pretend
Putin
to.
is terrified.
I mean, he sort of is. There is quite a lot of pressure on Putin as well. Let's not pretend there isn't. It's the special military operation has not exactly gone according to plan. It did not exactly last 3 days now, has it? And the Russian economy is actually looking to be in trouble whether or not the war continues. That is a little bit of a fact that it's not being discussed nearly enough in my opinion. Russian economy is in such a state that if Russia stops the war, it's in trouble. If Russia continues the war, it's in trouble. It has a lot to do with banking, with the so-called key what's the English word? Key interest, and how people's de facto interest for credit soars. However, it's a whole thing. Let's just keep it simple and say whatever Russia does, its economy is in trouble. So yes, I would say that there is at least a little bit of pressure on Vladimir Putin. Yes.
Fuck you, man. Fuck you people. You fucking people are about to start World War III.
Yeah, it's
And you're saying that based on what exactly? So far, Ukraine has been containing the war within its borders, not expanding it. That is such a nonsensical claim to say. Everybody just throws the term World War III around because I guess it became a very popular slogan. And when people say World War III, by the way, they don't mean an actual global war where many countries are engulfed, when many countries fight in a international conflict that spans all over the globe. No, that's not what people mean when they say World War III. They mean nuclear war. When people say World War III, they usually mean nukes are going to be thrown around. Not there's going to be a coalition of countries over here and a coalition of countries over there, and they're going to be fighting all over the globe. That is not what people mean when they say World War III in the context of the war in Ukraine. That is something that is worth mentioning. That is something that is worth pointing out.
crazy.
Russia fired a missile today.
I feel
Yeah,
like
they fired an intercontinental ballistic missile for the
No, they've not fired an intercontinental ballistic missile. They fired an intermediary range ballistic missile, which is not quite the intercontinental ballistic missile. An IRBM is not quite an ICBM. So that we get our nerd cred straight.
first time ever. It's the first time one of those has ever been used.
And also, what Russia has done with that is that it had actually apparently no explosives in it. The main damage done by this missile was, I guess, by its sheer size. And also, Russia has sent a warning to the US 30 minutes before launching it. It's a PR stunt. it's a way to try to scare the West. Because the main thing that Russia is doing with this missile, it's the message to the West. There's a map that has been published in which Russia says it would only take us this much amount of time to attack Warsaw, it would only take us about this much time to attack Paris, etc., etc. And Putin says, this missile is so fast, no one can intercept it. You better be careful because we're gonna attack you with our brand new missile, which is not actually brand new at all. And you're not gonna be able to do anything about it. And we're about to mass manufacture this stuff, so you better back off. That's basically what is happening here. That is what's happening here.
It's insanity.
Fucking insanity, because those intercontinental ballistic missiles cannot.
I mean,
Yes, I know what he's about to say. Those intercontinental ballistic missiles can carry nukes. The problem is, Russia has been using several types of missiles against Ukraine that can also carry nuclear missiles. So Russia has not even done anything new in that aspect. Russia has already been using missiles that can carry nuclear warheads. So this is why Joe Rogan should never talk about politics ever. But unfortunately, he does. And that's why he loses people, he loses an audience of people that would have watched him regularly if he would have just stayed on the topic of combat sports. Just saying. I know there definitely are people like that. Now let's go to the response. A big response of the famous Ukraine boxer. I hope it's in English. At Joe Rogan. Spot on.
Joe Rogan.
Okay, it's in English. Let's go. Gonna watch it now. Let's go.
Joe Rogan, I listened to your latest podcast. I'm sending you this video to let you know that I disagree. You talk about these American weapons being sent to Ukraine, which you believe will lead to the Third World War.
Which is nonsense. I'm just baffled. And of course, all of this is triggered by the US allowing the use of ATACMS on Russian territory. We need to get into perspective here a bit. Russia's trying desperately to signal that its threats are not completely meaningless, because as I've said time and time again, the more empty threats Russia does, the less credible they will be, the less seriously Russia will be taken. With each empty threat Russia throws at the West will be more emboldened, because Russia will become just more and more, and Russia will just become without any sort of, there will be no weight behind what they will say. And now, in a desperate bid to say, no, we are being serious, our threats actually mean something, they've fired this IRBM without explosives inside to make a point. And by the way, from what I'm seeing, Poland is also not that afraid of nukes. Interestingly enough, on that stream that I've watched recently, the Polish stream, the host of the show said, we here in this region of the world seem to be pretty distanced from the threats that Russia makes, but the West takes them really seriously.
So, let me tell you that you're repeating Russian propaganda.
Of course. I'm not even surprised.
Putin's Russia is in trouble, so they want to scare you and people like you. His war was supposed to last 3 days. It has lasted 3 years, thanks to the heroism and sacrifice of us Ukrainians. So you're using the only weapon that Putin really intends to use, propaganda. And this weapon really weakens our democracies. Putin's Russia wants to destroy Ukraine quietly. They want America to stay quiet, not great, but quiet. A great America is not an America that abandons countries that defend freedom with their lives.
We'll see. We'll see what will happen. Unfortunately, I have no reason for optimism at the moment when it comes to this.
In short, you see, I have quite a few points of difference. If you invite me on your podcast, we could discuss them like free men.
So there you go. A famous Ukrainian fighter has given his opinion on the matter. And hard to disagree. Hard to disagree. That was it. More World War III fear-mongering. More... It is such a sad thing when when pundits from the West are basically champions of Russia when it comes to propagating and when it comes to calling for ending aid to Ukraine. Well, what can I say? What can I do? The answer is not much, unfortunately. Unfortunately, there is not much that I can do. All right. Oh. So how are we? How are we all feeling right now? How are we feeling on this fine day? It's a pretty slow stream tonight. Less viewers than usual. I'm sad to see. I'm sad to report there are even less viewers. Oh, the West is terrified of nukes. Battle of Ukraine is like, do it, no balls, tired, going to bed soon. Oh my god, I'm losing all of my viewers. Especially the most loyal ones. It might be time for me to finish. If this is how it's gonna be. Oh well. Better luck. Better luck tomorrow. I'm gonna see you tomorrow. How long have we been streaming for? 2 hours. That's fine. We've done a quick stream. We've done a few topics. I'm gonna continue this tomorrow. I've talked about the most important thing. Romania. I've got an early start tomorrow. You don't have to apologize. You never have to apologize. You watch the streams, okay? I should be thanking you. You do what a lot of people don't, and that is being here. So yes, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to be finishing up for today. I do have some things to do after, and I have to prepare for tomorrow still, and I have to set up the work in Ukraine, so there's a lot, and I have to catch up with the person. All right, I'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully tomorrow will be a more trafficked thing. All right. Good night. Good night. Good night. Sleep tight.